Smoking weed causes mass shootings? That's exactly what Laura Ingraham thinks. The video I thought I would be doing, but here we are. Hi, I'm the great Stony Baloney, and I haven't done one of these in a while. Pardon me, it's been slow on the weed news, and I'm lazy. Not all of us can break the stereotype. Normally my realm is in weed and business. I've worked in there. I know what I'm talking about. But I've only fired a gun like maybe twice in my life. I was a Boy Scouts. I thought it would be a fun idea to answer the questions that Laura Ingraham presents into her broadcast. It was only a matter of time before the news kind of circled back around to weed, and this is how they're doing it. You talk about mental health, you gotta talk about drugs.
Speaking of drugs, according to the Daily Mail, well, the New York Times had originally reported that Ramos smoked pot. Then, mysteriously, the reference was missing from the online editions. Now, why is that?
So she's asking why they're excluding pot use in the Texas shooting reporting from the New York Times. More than likely, it's just hearsay because it has nothing to fucking do with why he shot up the school. It's because he was able to get some ditch weed somewhere. And yeah, it's just hearsay. It's one guy who was a former coworker, and that same person also said that he would shoot up the Wendy's that he worked at. He also stopped showing up 2 weeks before committing the crime. In between that time of when he quit his job and committed the crime, he purchased not one, but 2 automatic weapons, which is maybe a reason why we should have, I don't know, universal background checks. But he also had no criminal history or mental health history. And if you pay attention, history of mental health is the main reason for these marijuana-related psychosis, as Laura Ingraham explains.
Respected medical studies for years now have demonstrated that pot use, especially among teens, can trigger psychosis and increase the chance that a young person will develop violent behaviors. The Association of Mature American Citizens write,
yes, the reliable source. This 501c4, whose entire motivation is to advance initiatives at Capitol Hill, whose stances on key issues are critical race theory, police and crime, China, Russia, BLM, has completely unbiased reasoning for their beliefs. But we're talking about drug use, right? All of these mass shooters smoked pot, much like this Dayton shooting.
And that he had done hard drugs with Betts, as well as marijuana and acid, 4 or 5 times a week.
I gotta look that one up because sorry if I forget one of the thousands of mass shootings that happened in my lifetime. Oh, there's another one. There's another one that has happened during my filming of this. Not the one that happened in 2019. No, the one that happened as of 9 hours ago whenever I took that screenshot. There was also a shooting later in the day of that same broadcast that Laura Ingraham had in Oklahoma. And God forbid this person be one of the 9% of people who live in Oklahoma who happen to have a medical marijuana card. Because obviously that's what's causing it.
Recent illicit and medical marijuana is of much higher potency and more likely to cause violent behavior. High-potency marijuana is a predictable and preventable cause of tragic, violent consequences.
This is a point that is brought up very often. There has been a sufficient amount of evidence that point to link increased psychotic episodes of those who have a prior history of a particular mental illness, such as schizophrenia. There needs to be a pre-existing mental health condition there. It's such an incredibly rare occurrence as opposed to a much larger portion of an incredibly huge umbrella that is mental health, which a majority of mental health patients see a relief when using the drug. A lot of people just don't vibe with weed, and I've never once seen a person who has smoked too much weed do anything more than just, hey man, are you okay? Links to violent tendencies in marijuana use is straight up reefer madness. It is, it's not real. These psychotic episodes are not usually violent. They're not usually violent outbursts. They're mostly hallucination or delusion, loss of reality, maybe some aggressive tendencies, but nothing violent. In this particular study that they cite on Fox News, they use 14 different case studies to represent the 192 million users around the world. With the exception of a few occurrences like a stabbing in Georgia and the bombing of Manchester Stadium in UK, all of these other case studies mentioned were mass shootings or gun violence in America, including a shooting from what I assume is a mobster who tried to have a citizen's arrest on Bill de Blasio and Nancy Pelosi, which is what I thought Fox News wants. I thought that was the good things Also among these examples were the Parkland shooting and the murder of Michael Brown, in which they say that because he was high was the reason he was murdered. All other circumstances that they used in these case studies were instances of violence that were supposedly brought on because they were high on marijuana, because Michael Brown was high and walking home, not even high, he just had marijuana in his system. He was the violent person in this circumstance and not the cop who shot him. So great sources. These are all reliable and scientifically sound sources.
My question tonight is, why isn't there a national conversation happening right now about this? Why aren't reporters doing more to demand information on the potential drug use in this case and others?
Why we aren't talking about drugs? Because this is a gun issue. It's so much easier to get a gun in this country than to get an eighth. I do not miss the days when I had to go through my entire Facebook friends list and try to find that one stoner who I thought wouldn't be weirded out when I tried to ask them who their plug was. And that scenario is 50% of the country. You can't just walk into a trade show or a pawn shop or a Walmart to buy weed. All of those different places, you can get a gun legally. You can purchase a deadly weapon. Same day, walk out with it. Conversation needs to be about what restrictions we can put on something that actually kills people. But hey, what am I gonna do? Thanks for watching, and if you've gotten this far, please take just a couple minutes of your time to call this number. This is the Capitol Hill directory, so you're able to get in touch with any senator or representative that you can. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.